Hi, this is Josh coming to you with my very first podcast. For this book, I read Theodore Boone, Kid Lawyer by none other than John Grisham. The main characters in this book are Theo, Mr. Boone, Miss Duffy, Mr. Duffy, Julio, and Ike Boone. There is a murder trial going on in a city who rarely has murders. Pete Duffy has been accused of murdering his wife, but the prosecutors have no evidence of this. All goes in his favor until a key witness decides to share his part of the story. Now, I really did like this book. I enjoyed the suspense and mystery that the book had. I also like how Theo, the main character, turned out to play a big part in this major crime case, even though he's just a 13-year-old boy. My attention was grabbed in the book when Bobby the witness informed Theo of what he saw while on his lunch break on the day and at the time of the murder. This turned the entire story around, and it helped the energy and the pace of the story. The novel started off pretty slow and boring until, of course, Bobby came in and told his side of the story. No one else had proof that Mr. Duffy was guilty except him, so this made the story interesting. I found Theo, Julio, and Bobby to be the most interesting characters in this story. Theo knew more about the law than many of the lawyers did, and he helped pretty much everyone at his school with their little problems with the law, and I found that to be pretty funny. Julio just wanted to make sure that his cousin was protected as a witness. He showed how much he valued his family, and a little background for Julio and his family. They're from Mexico, and they came to the United States, and Bobby, his cousin, is illegal, which is why he can't go up and testify for himself. The setting of this story is in Strattonburg, Pennsylvania, a small, quiet town where nothing crime-related usually takes place. So this is what made it such a big deal in the town, that everyone had their attention. One moment that made me really surprised was when Omar Cheap, who was an ally to Pete Duffy, spied on the Boone law firm and Judge Gantry. This gave me chills because it was late at night and the Boones were trying to have a private discussion with Judge Gantry. And this was an important discussion because it eventually helped to turn out how the case would go. So that's why it was such a big deal. And the fact that he was spying on them really, kind of gave me a spooky feeling. My favorite moment for Theo was when he addressed his class about the case. He seemed like he was a real lawyer and he knew what he was doing. I like Ike, who is Theo's uncle, because he is honest and he tells everything just as he sees it. He's been through many struggles and hard times, but he's come out on the better side of things now, and he's actually now very helpful. I also like Clifford Nance because he's the defense lawyer in this story. I like him because he really made it seem like there was no way that Duffy was guilty, even though we learn later on in the story that he actually is. The main conflict of this novel was figuring out if Duffy is guilty or not. The resolution was unclear because instead of proving him guilty, they just called it a mistrial, which kind of frustrated me because I wanted to see how the story ended and if Pete Duffy would be sent to jail or not. In this story, one can learn that even young people can have a say on important issues. Age is nothing but a number. That's how I saw this story. If I can make 2 changes to this book, one of the changes would be that I would tell how the case ends instead of just calling a mistrial. This would help the reader to know that justice was served to Mr. Duffy. That's what I wanted to know. And another thing I would change is that I would allow there to be a way that Bobby, the witness, could come and testify for himself. I feel like this would have changed the entire case, and Duffy definitely would have been sent to jail instead of remaining free for as long as he did. I'm going to read to you a passage from the book. A little context for this passage. Theo, he was just told um, of Bobby's story and how he saw pretty much everything go down. So he's had this on his heart for a while and he needs someone to tell. So he decides to tell his uncle. Here we go. Is this Theo? Yes, Ike. Good morning. Sorry to bother you so early. Theo was speaking as softly as possible into the phone. No problem, Theo. I assume you have something on your mind. Yes. Can we talk this morning? Early? At your office? Something real important has come up, and I'm not sure I can discuss it with my parents. Well, sure, Theo. What time? Maybe a few minutes after 8. School starts at 8:30. If I leave too early, Mom will get suspicious. Sure, I'd love to. Thanks, Ike. Theo hurried through breakfast, kissed his mom goodbye, spoke to Judge, and was on his bike racing down Mallard Lane at straight up 8 o'clock. I feel like this was a big part of the story, which is why I read it, because this is when Theo decided to actually go to an adult for advice on what he should do regarding the information that he was told by Julio. And the next steps of action was that he had to tell his parents as well, which was a good idea because both of his parents are lawyers, so they know what to do, they know how the law works. And that led to them having a conversation with the judge, which of course led to the mistrial. So that's my book. I hope you enjoyed this talk and see you next time.